Tonight, friends and family are trying to lift each other's spirits. A teen on a moped was killed in a fiery crash last night in Hampton.
Police are investigating the four-vehicle crash that happened at West Pembroke Avenue and Powhatan Parkway. The teen's friends, family, and football teammates held a vigil tonight to remember the 16-year-old. Her
was there as they remembered the good times.
That's right, guys. Dozens showed up tonight in Hampton to remember Daquan Robinson. His friends and family say he was an honor roll student, a great football player, and a good person whose life was taken way too soon in what could have been an avoidable accident.
If you cling to the word, it will always hold true.
I miss hearing that voice. It's stuck in my head now.
It's not hard to describe.
Asked him, did he want to ride? Actually, he asked me, man. He want to ride out?
What Daquan Robinson meant to Leon Jones, but losing his riding partner. I
couldn't sleep the whole night, talked to my mom, woke her up.
There just aren't words Leon can use.
I was just shocked on the edge of my bed.
Daquan Robinson was killed Monday night while riding his moped in Hampton. Stopped at a red light, he was hit from behind by a pickup truck, killing him instantly. A friend riding with him was also hurt.
It's been a sad day for me.
Devon Kelly joined Leon and dozens of others Tuesday night, supporting each other and remembering Daquan.
He was doing what he did typically every day, riding on his scooter.
Just a good guy, never in trouble, always there. Always there.
Those who knew him most.
I knew Quan ever since he was about 4 years old.
New people showed up because they truly loved Daquan.
As you could see, so many people he touched. So many people he touched.
If I make one step.
In just 16 years, he made an everlasting mark on those around him.
I'm just gonna miss that one voice, man. That voice is always calling me.
All right, the 60-year-old pickup truck driver and two people who were inside the rental box truck that was also involved in the crash were hospitalized with what police say were non-life-threatening injuries. Her, 13 News Now.
A man died after getting shot this afternoon in Norfolk. Police say they are questioning another man in the incident. It happened on East Virginia Beach Boulevard, not far from Military Circle Mall. Medics pronounced the victim dead on the scene. Detectives have not released the motive or circumstances surrounding the shooting. And just in word that two workers were hurt at the Waterside District in Norfolk. Police dispatchers say it happened this evening, but it's unknown whether the crew was working inside or outside when this happened. We know work is underway to build the Sky Star Ferris wheel outside Waterside. Both workers were taken to the hospital. We will continue to update you as we learn more.
Two men went fishing on the York River in James City County today, but only one of them returned after their boat tipped over.
Search and rescue crews from various agencies spent much of the afternoon and evening trying to find the lost fisherman, who was 68 years old, but they were unsuccessful. Robert Boyd has the story.
Well, the search for the missing 68-year-old boater went into the night as police and the Coast Guard still hold out hope that he could still be alive. 2 helicopters and several search and rescue boats combed the York River for hours Tuesday afternoon. Police say 2 men from out of state went fishing in this 14-foot boat around 2 in the afternoon near Croker Landing, when at some point the boat capsized.
Good Samaritans was out there, heard him screaming, was able to bring one into shore. He was transported to a local hospital.
The second man disappeared underwater and never resurfaced. Divers, armed with state-of-the-art sonar technology, were deployed immediately.
Side-scan sonar actually picks up objects in the water. That way we can actually view it before we actually send the divers in. It's more of a safety thing, and it's more of a precise location of where the person is.
This section of the river may seem calm, but crews were dealing with a number of challenges, from 10 to 25-foot depths to low visibility to changing currents. Casey Oglesby said she's been out on the York River in a canoe herself. She's not exactly surprised this happened.
It's just dangerous, the amount that the wind picks up in a small boat. It just capsizes over real quick, and you don't even know in a blink of an eye.
She said Tuesday's incident has left an impact on her family.
I was just telling my fiance and brother I don't even want them going out on their fishing boat anymore because of it. It's just scary.
The boat was hauled away as evidence. The cause of the accident remains under investigation. The Coast Guard also said The boater who is missing was not wearing a life jacket, but the other boater who was saved was wearing one.
The water looks calm, but just, I mean, if you go under, it's not. So having a life jacket on is really important. I mean, definitely for kids, but even for grown-ups.
The Coast Guard is desperate to find this man before storms roll in later on tomorrow. As for the other boater who was rescued and taken to the hospital, he's expected to make a full recovery. In James City County, Robert Boyd, 13 News Now.
Tonight, Virginia Beach City Council approved a $2 billion budget. It includes money for road construction, schools, and stormwater projects. The plan does not include any tax increases, despite proposals to increase several taxes and fees. Council rejected the tax hikes by delaying hiring new employees. The vote tonight was unanimous. Tonight, we're getting a look at a live fire missile exercise off Virginia's coast. The USS Milwaukee fired 4 Longbow Hellfire missiles a few days ago. We're told the missiles successfully struck their targets. The ship's crew conducted the exercises under a scenario simulating a war-fighting environment. The Milwaukee is home-ported in Mayport, Florida. An annual joint military exercise between the U.S. and South Korea appears to have ruffled feathers with North Korea again. The North canceled a high-level meeting with South Korea and threatened to cancel the upcoming summit between Kim Jong-un and President Trump. Pentagon officials say the U.S. does the defensive exercise each year with South Korea, and each year North Korea protests it. The exercise began yesterday and runs through May 25th.
The death of an 18-year-old inmate at the Hampton Roads Regional Jail is under investigation tonight. A spokesperson says Devaje Jones was pronounced dead this morning. Jail staff members say Jones was unresponsive in his cell when they found him during a routine check. Workers tried to revive him until EMS arrived. The 18-year-old had been in the jail since April 26th after Chesapeake police charged him with breaking and entering and possession of marijuana. Tonight, the mother accused of abusing her 10 children is facing new charges. Prosecutors in California are filing 9 counts of felony child abuse against the mother in California. She's expected to appear in court tomorrow. Today, she defended herself and her husband. ABC's Diane Macedo has a report.
And this is absolutely appalling.
Ina Rogers is speaking out after she and her husband were charged with abusing and even torturing their 10 children.
I strive and I thrive myself on being a good parent to my children. My husband has a lot of tattoos. He looks like a scary individual, and that's why people are so quick to judge him. But absolutely not. My husband is an amazing person. I am an amazing mother.
But police in Fairfield, California have a different take. They say this case started in late March when Rogers' 12-year-old son ran away. He was found a short time later, but officers say they also found 9 other kids living in filth.
Garbage and spoiled food on the floor, animal and human feces, and a large amount of debris making areas of the house unpassable.
Rogers claims police made the mess during their search.
They tore up everything, and I haven't had time to clean it.
Police arrested Rogers and her husband, Jonathan Allen. Rogers is now out on bail after being charged with abuse, while Allen remains in jail facing more serious charges, including child cruelty and torture.
The children describe incidents of intentional abuse resulting in puncture wounds, burns, bruising, and injuries consistent with being shot with a pellet gun or a BB gun.
Rogers says she homeschools her 11 children while working full-time as a medical technician. This case comes just months after another California couple was charged with torture, accused of shackling and starving 12 of their children. David and Louise Turpin are now awaiting trial. Earlier this month, David Turpin was charged with lying to authorities to get a homeschooling license. Diane Macedo, ABC News, New York.
The husband has pleaded not guilty to torture and child cruelty charges. He's being held on $5.2 million bail.
Facebook has disabled more than 1 billion fake accounts. Even after that, Facebook says 3 to 4% of its active users are still fake. That adds up to about 88 million fake accounts that have slipped through. Fake accounts have gotten a lot of attention recently because of the Russia investigation. It was revealed that Russian agents used them to buy ads in an effort to influence the 2016 elections.
More businesses are potentially coming to Virginia Beach. A developer wants to build a shopping plaza in Burton Station. That's the area off Northampton Boulevard near the Norfolk Premium Outlets. Earlier this month, the Rezoning Commission approved rezoning for the property from residential to commercial. There would be several shops and restaurants with sidewalks and bike paths. There would be room for industrial space with businesses and offices on the bottom and apartments up top. Norfolk owns the land, which is in Virginia Beach, and the approvals still have to go through Virginia Beach. In June, it will head to the City Council for approval. Work on the Skiffs Creek power lines are underway across the James River. Dominion Energy officials tell us they are modifying their construction techniques because of tidal conditions in the river. They've delayed construction of steel towers for the transmission lines until at least July. Until the line is completed next year, Dominion says the peninsula is at high risk of power outages. They're asking customers to conserve energy to help keep the lights on.
President Trump's nominee for CIA Director, Regina, is getting support from the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, that being Senator Mark Warner. Warner says he will vote to confirm Haspel. Haspel apparently wrote the senator to say the CIA should never have run an interrogation program after the 9/11 attacks. She has come under fire for her role in interrogation techniques. In a statement, Senator Warner said, "I believe she is someone who can and will stand up to the president if ordered to do something illegal or immoral, like a return to torture." Warner would be the third Democrat to vote for Haspel. President Trump visited his wife again today at Walter Reed Medical Center outside of Washington. Melania Trump underwent a kidney procedure yesterday. The White House said the First Lady is likely to remain in the hospital the rest of the week. Today, the president said his wife will likely leave the hospital in 2 or 3 days. Next at